Hi, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of SteamLUG Cast. We're recording this on the 6th of February, 2015. My name is Cheese, and with me I have Bean.
Hello.
And DerRidda.
Hello.
How you guys been?
Splendid.
Hooray!
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
And you?
Busy. Very busy. But that's a good thing at the moment. So, before we dive in, Bean, what have you been playing?
Let's see. Well, been playing Borderlands pre-sequel. The new Lady Hammerlock DLC came out, and I was giving that a run for its money. It's not bad. If you like sniper rifles, definitely one to check out. Fandango Remastered, of course. Very excited about this one. It's still played through year one, so looking forward to Double Fine Game Club this weekend. Some Borderlands 2, some Guns of Icarus online during the practice events. Cosmicoria, still kind of hooked on that one. Throw out some Cider Arcade, Beat Hazard, Salt Android Cactus. I'm going to start doing the daily challenges a little more often.
Nice.
Played a little bit of Starbound, 2 hours in, and still not out of the tutorials yet, so we'll kick back into that one a little later. Trying to also go through some of the titles that have been neglected for a time, so Zenbound 2, which is just bizarre. But strangely enough, for a game that's supposed to kind of induce Zen, I end up rage quitting a lot. Natural Selection 2, until we discovered the locale bug that prevented Corbin from joining the servers. And then some Little Racer Street during the last event.
Nice.
So, DerRidda, what have you been playing?
I have been playing CSGO, attempting to play Dying Light, and actually managed to get like an hour or two in. I'm playing the Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Remastered Edition, some Pulsar Lost Colony, and Starbound. A lot of Starbound, actually. And you, Cheese?
I actually have been playing a lot of stuff lately, between stuff that I've been asked to test and stuff that I've been streaming, because I've been doing a little bit of streaming lately. I've packed in a lot more games than I expected I had. So I've been playing some Apotheon. I don't know how far away the release is, but I was playing the public beta last night. Some Guns of Icarus online, of course. I had a little bit of a go of Race the Sun. I had some spare time, just kind of went, what am I going to play? And sat down and did some of that. Been playing a bunch of Massive Chalice, which I've been streaming. I've been also streaming the Assault Android Cactus and Crypt of the Necrodancer daily challenges. We had our big Starbound event, and I've been playing a little bit since then. It's been fun. I streamed some Another World. I've been playing Grim Fandango, of course. Violet, which we just finished for the Double Fine Game Club. That's not too bad. A little bit on the side of this kind of random door maze things, where you go back in the door you came from, and you don't go back to where you came from. So if you don't mind those, it's a good game. If you hate those, then just steer clear of it. I've been playing the Chasm beta, or alpha. I think it's alpha. I can't remember what they call it, but it's pre-release. And Invisible Ink, which is another turn-based strategy. It's kind of been fun to sort of stream Massive Chalice, which is this big scale, epic timeline-oriented thing where you make generational decisions about breeding in and out positive and negative traits, and passing on relics between generations and stuff. And it takes a long time for a lot of your decisions to have any impact. Whereas Invisible Ink takes place over 72 hours. So it's kind of cool to have this really long scale turn-based strategy and this really short scale turn-based strategy. And they contrast well. It's really cool. But yeah. So moving on to community stuff. In the past events, we had, as Bean mentioned, Little Racer Street. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. I think we had 8 to 10 people in there at one point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had, I think with our first event, we had about a bit over a dozen. And we had some latency issues. Was it any of that any better? I don't know. I think they had too high ping to catch the start of the match, and just ended up just sitting there and not getting the ability to move.
Yeah, we did have, I think it was Space Pope that still happened.
Well, that's a shame. But it's a fun little game regardless. And, obviously single players there, and I think if you have fewer players in the server that sort of stuff is less likely to happen.
Yeah, but it makes for a really good strategy because if you just kind of like, if you have somebody tailing you, you just move out of the way at the last minute and they collide with that car. It's okay.
We also had Serious Sam, which I managed to make. That was fun.
Yeah, I was also there. That was some nice little mayhem again. CSM is always just a fun fest, even though we play the beginning like 50 times over already or something like that.
It was crazy. You guys finished the game in, was it less than 2 hours?
I wasn't there for the finish. I was only there for some time, and then my game bugged out a bit. I had to get stomped on by a monster, and I kind of lost interest after that.
Fair enough. I had to duck off and get some other work done, and I was gonna come back and join in on the end, and they're like, "Oh no, we finished a while ago." We also had, as I mentioned earlier, our large Starbound event to coincide with the recent update. Um, that's been fun. Have you played that a bit, DerRidda?
Not during the event. As I said, I've played a lot of Starbound actually, but I intentionally prepared my characters on the beta access to that version that is now unstable. Got them out of the tutorial mostly, and then I discovered that they had wiped the characters again, even though that beta isn't that different from the stable version. So I got a bit miffed and didn't want to play.
I was talking to someone who carried their character across, but I'm not sure what they had to do that.
Yeah, but once I took the time to actually play it on my own, I have had a lot of fun with it, but that tutorial is improved but still incredibly grindy and a bit too long in my opinion.
Right. I can totally, I feel the same way. I've spent 2 hours in it. I'm still looking for copper ore and I can't find enough to get past the next quest.
Yeah, as much as they said that they don't want to pretty much have the combat and mining gameplay forced on everybody, it's still forced on everybody.
It does kind of feel that way to an extent. The nice thing about having the public service that we've got is that there's a massive chest with copper in it, so that if you don't want to go through all that, you can just yoink some copper and finish that quest.
But what you absolutely cannot do is engage that first boss on your own. I mean, they had a. Have you played that first boss, Cheese?
Yeah. Namoda, DS, and I spent a little while on it, and our strategy was to have one person stay just outside the boss area, so that the instance wouldn't reset when everyone died.
Yeah, that was a bit too much. I mean, people were really angry about it. After my second try, I was here in Mumble. I asked if I could jump on the motor server. We joined that mission together, and he jumped into that pit for me. And even while he was at least 1 or 2 armor classes ahead, he still got killed in the last phase, and I had to jump in, press the buttons to get the killing shot in.
Yeah. It does feel like health usage, like healing yourself and stuff, is a little bit too clumsy to be useful. Because like, given how fast you can take damage in that room, it's just mad.
Yeah, they even patched out the third phase of the boss. Not completely patched it out, but changed it. Because in the version you played, the beams did cross, so there was no way to
Right.
actually avoid damage, which wasn't
Yeah.
part of the idea, part of the pattern. So they patched that out that you can actually, if you're good enough, avoid damage from these overpowered beams in the third phase.
Oh, that helps. But I have to say, I'm blown away by the amount of activity there's been. There's, I dug a hole in the ground during the event and was like, I'm gonna stick a campfire here. And I came back 2 days later, and there's this, 8-story above ground and 3 floors below ground massive fortress that people have been collaboratively working on.
I haven't been feeling the urge to build a house now that you can actually increase the size of your chips. I have like the first upgrade only, and just got the license for the second upgrade. And like the first one's already enough to just get a huge cargo bay into your ship, and the rest you can do with levels in your first room. So there's like more than enough space, and it's more useful than having a house just on a random planet you don't need to go to anymore after you have reached the next sector.
I guess it depends upon what you want to do. I mean, the I haven't looked at the European server. I kind of hope that it's got the same amount of activity, but on the US server, the fortress that's been built has got it's got rooms for every biome that's been discovered so far, and these massive vats with oil and water and liquid aeritus. Is that what the fuel is?
Yeah, something like that.
Just all these rooms full of different style stuff. There's an arcade room full of arcade machines and a big fluffy couch, and a room with Death Star plans.
Everybody needs one of those.
Many Bothans died to get that room made.
That meme isn't even good.
So for anybody who'd like to check it out, we have 2 Starbound servers for the community. We'll make sure that they get into the show notes so that they're easy to find for people. But yeah, check it out. Join in. People have been playing it fairly regularly. There is still a bug with the game. I don't think it's been fixed yet. It's that one of the dependencies is not quite there, and you need to launch the Starbound executable directly, whether that's by editing a launch script or changing the launch options in Steam or setting up a non-Steam app or whatever you want to do. But just keep in mind that you kind of do need to do the little extra step to get it running. For now, I'm hoping they'll fix it soon. So we also had Dota 2 recently, which I didn't manage to make it to. Did any of you guys get there?
I did not.
No.
I know Namoda did. For a bit. I'm not sure how big a turnout we had, but it was the first one that we had following the training event that we had last month. So I hope that everybody who attended that had fun. On the upcoming event side, we have TF2 after the cast here. We'll be playing the vanilla game mode. So everybody who didn't like the man up mode or manpower or whatever it was, don't despair. We also have Altitude tomorrow, Battle Block Theatre, Fistful of Frags, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, our full events schedule for February can be viewed here. Boink. Looking at other community stuff, starting tomorrow, the Double Fine Game Club is going to be playing Grim Fandango, which been mentioned earlier. We got throughout the month we've got a bunch of special guests lined up. I don't think we've got anyone yet confirmed for tomorrow, so tomorrow's going to be probably just the community discussing the first year of the game, and then in subsequent weeks we're going to have people ranging from Oliver Franske, who was with us back in season 2 of SteamLUG Cast, I think. We got Mogul, one of the original Grim Fandango developers, who is a strong part of the residual VM community. We've got Brandon Dillon lined up to join us. He was lead programmer on the remastered edition of Grim. We've got a few other people who are keen to show up. I have been talking with Peter McConnell, the composer who worked on the game. We're trying to get him to join us as well. And we're still nailing down Tim, so if we can get Tim to come, he'll be there as well.
That'll be outstanding. It'd be good to hear. Peter McConnell especially. He's a real hep cat. I like to hear his thoughts on the different pieces that he put together for the various scenes in there.
Yeah.
Because without the soundtrack, it's really that game is it's another one of those that's very complete. Like there isn't a piece of it you could take out and say that this was done very poorly. Sure, it's got its quirks and things, but it's just a wonderful game altogether.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good to hear from people who were there as they were making it.
Yeah, definitely. And especially people who have perspectives on the original game as well as the remastering. I think that there are like 2 really interesting stories to be told there.
Oh, definitely, because it's going to help highlight some of the things like technological limitations that existed then that don't now.
Hmm.
Well, I meant things like simply adding the ability to do point and click or to adapt this to work on modern hardware wasn't something that would have been thought of back then. So it'll be interesting to kind of get those perspectives on how they actually, how the technology changed.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that anybody who watched the documentary for the remastered edition, and anybody who's listened to interviews with Peter McConnell, is that there were a few bits and pieces of the music that he was unhappy with, that he couldn't get the same level of recording quality or the same level of your performance quality from that he was able to go back and sort of rework. So there are some enhancements to the music there as well, which is cool to see. But yeah, so anybody who would like to chat about Grim Fandango with other players and maybe some developers, do feel free to join us.
Apparently, we have community curation now. It has been suggested a couple of times already. There was an ongoing thread, and now we have rolled out the first recommended games.
Yeah, so Namota's been heading this up. He's been keen to get it off the ground. There's been some back and forthing on whether or not the group should be doing curation, but Namoto eventually picked up the ball and got that happening. Just to rattle off the games that we got recommended at the moment, we have Borderlands 2, Natural Selection 2, Limbo, Guns of Icarus Online, Psychonauts, Fistful of Frags, Crypt of the Necrodancer, Space Chem, Crusader Kings 2, Fez, and Portal 2. Yeah, so it's kind of, for some people who want to see it, it's definitely gonna be appreciated. It's also interesting to see what stuff people are interested to see curated. And for anybody who wants to sort of give feedback or offer suggestions, let me grab the link. That thread is probably the thread to throw some thoughts into.
Mika, if you think we should add Mark of the Ninja to it, why don't you recommend it on Steam, write a review about it, and we then add it to your curation list and add to your review. I mean, everybody is welcome to contribute to that list. This is not like a hegemonical system here. We absolutely want you to contribute.
So we've set up a thread for people to share their reviews in, which you can pop that there. And we've also set up a thread for people to share their curation. People in the community who already are Steam curators. You can share yours in this thread, where we're hoping to create a list of of interesting curators who feature Linux games within the community, so that for people who want to see more than just what the SteamLUG group is curating, there's other stuff there.
In fact, that thread already has 5 different curators and their curation lists already linked there.
Yeah. Which is cool to see. I'm sure that there are more out there. So if you are a curator, definitely get your link in there, and we'll get it listed. And I can't remember whether or not we found one, but I do recall the Motor talking about wanting a review for Fistful of Frags. I can't remember if he found one. Yeah, he didn't. So if anybody has written a review of Fistful of Frags, feel free to share it in that review thread, and we might get that added to the curation page. John has been working a little on the revamp of the website for anybody who'd like to check that out. He's been working through tying up a lot of the loose ends. Following the migration to Bootstrap, there are a couple new features that will come along when that gets pushed live as well. There's a full changelog available on GitHub for anybody who'd like to see specific changes, although it can be a bit of work to dig through.
It looks really nice compared to the old one. So we have some big news, a new guest, a big one.
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't an insult to his weight.
Wow.
But it's Ryan Iculus Gordon coming up in the next cast, so that will be a lot to talk about. I mean, he was the Linux game industry, and we have the Linux game industry, all of it, in our cast.
Ryan has been a huge figure in Linux gaming. He's been porting since the early 90s, I guess.
Sounds about right.
He was involved with Loki Games, who did some of the early sort of larger AAA ports, if you want to call them that. When they folded, he went freelance and has been porting games on his own ever since. He's been heavily involved with Humble Bundle. He offered Valve a hand with porting Left 4 Dead 2. He's worked on many, many games that I'm sure many of you have played, and also worked on a few unreleased titles that never saw the light of day that many of you probably haven't played. So it's going to be great to have his perspectives.
Yeah, and he's also one of the leading figures on SDL, which
Right.
A lot of other games he didn't port also use. So yeah.
And the Mojo family of open source projects originated with him as well.
So if you game on Linux, you are touched by his work more so than even Valve's work.
Yeah, the chances of playing anything on Linux and not coming into contact with something that he's worked on, or something he's consulted on, or something that uses a library that he's worked on is very, very slim. So it's gonna be fantastic to have him on. It's been taken us a little while to nail him down. We know that he's been pretty requested as a guest for the show, so hopefully that's going to be appreciated, and we'll have some interesting stuff to chat about. So the Steam Beta has a test for a video app.
Yes, I have not been playing around this with myself, but apparently you can through some Steam URL hijackery watch free-to-play in Steam's built-in HTML5 browser, which is also used for game streaming. And, well, is it used for anything else yet? I don't think so, but yes, you can watch free-to-play in that, and it's probably going to be the standard on SteamOS to enjoy video content on Steam. Because why would you go with Flash still? You would be silly and broken in the head.
So looking at the SteamDB screenshot, it looks like they've also got the HTML5 video client running in a normal web browser as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can already watch game streams in a normal browser, so there's no reason why this wouldn't work.
Via HTML5?
Yes,
Huh, neat.
I believe so. I haven't actually checked it, but I think so.
I think the only thing they're missing that comes from this current system they've got for playing movies on Steam is all the additional bonus features and the commentary that can run through it. But then give it time. Chances are that the HTML5 player will have that, and they can dump Flash altogether.
In tech news, there have been some not so awesome NVIDIA news developing in the last 2 weeks. It already started when we had the last cast, but I didn't include it on purpose because it was still too gray and out there and no actual data out. But it has been confirmed that NVIDIA's really popular GTX 970, while it actually has 4 gigabytes of RAM, the last 500 megabytes of RAM are on a way slower connection, which is about 1/7 of the rest of the first 3.5 gigabytes of RAM. So if you have a game that goes past that, you might see more than a normal performance loss, with the lower frames actually making your game stutter, which isn't exactly great. While it's not a problem you actually see that often or at all on 1080p resolutions, if you play higher than that, you might run into it. And it's also a bit of a poopy behavior part on NVIDIA's side to advertise a card as 4 gigabyte when while it is 4 gigabyte, it's not what it says on the box. It's much slower, the last part of it. But there have been a lot of people who have had a way better go at explaining it than I did, and I strongly recommend, if you're interested in that, to watch the PC Per video about it on YouTube. These guys did a way better job at it than I could, and they are really level-headed about it, because there has been some bile thrown around, and AMD has been poking silly jokes at it. I mean, it's a marketing move, but it's still, well, overplaying the issue a bit, hyperbole to get their products out, which one can understand. Though, I personally had a bit of a go at an AMD guy on Twitter for saying that their drivers are acceptable on Linux, that they got praise for their 14.12 drivers, when somebody responded in that, yeah, I would buy your product instead of an NVIDIA one, and would get the full 4 gigabyte if your drivers weren't crap on Linux. And he said they got a lot of praise for it, which isn't exactly right. So have any of you guys been looking at a 970 and this has swayed you the other way?
No.
Not really, because I'm in a position where I would be not only upgrading the GPU, but everything else surrounding it, so I haven't quite looked at it yet.
I mean, I just bought that card.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna upgrade for a while, I don't think.
I just bought that card a while ago, and I'm also, not only am I a bit miffed at NVIDIA, I'm also miffed at the reviewers, the benchmarking people who took over 4 months. This card has been out for over 4 months, and they didn't see these issues themselves, so they just do their benchmarks look at the average and don't look at any crazy outlier FPS issues. This is, in my opinion, not only an NVIDIA failure, but also one of the people that review graphics cards, because how does such an evident issue on every single last card, no exceptions, not even on the review models, why doesn't that get discovered?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that it slipped through the cracks there.
Yeah, Nvidia might have mentioned that they will take care of it with a driver update, but this is an actual hardware issue. There's only so much they can do. They maybe can change the behavior of the driver when the VRAM reaches over 3.5 gigabytes to maybe average it out better so you don't get such an FPS drop at the lowest FPS.
Even if it's a hardware issue as such, it's probably going to still come down to embedded, firmware, which they can probably update with the drivers.
Firmware you can't even that easily upgrade with the driver.
Like, that behavior is not going to be determined entirely by the hardware, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but still, even though I am disappointed, I do not regret my purchase because I play at 1080p and that card is performing enormously great so far. So yeah, it's still a good card for the money, but if you expect to play at 4K, which that card isn't made for anyway, especially on Linux since you cannot use SLI, so no second card for you. Let's just say, don't try to run this at too high a resolution. At 1080p, you should still be fine if you want to buy it. Anything above that might give you problems. 4K is guaranteed to give you problems.
So some potentially exciting news at GDC. Valve, EA, and Epic and others are going to hold a presentation about OpenGL next.
Yeah, that is exciting news, and it happened fast for Kronos Group that we are actually probably going to see, as they have announced, demos of applications and drivers running this.
So I actually haven't had time to keep up on this. Is the Kronos Group actually involved with this? Because it's called GL Next rather than OpenGL Next, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is the initiative of the Kronos Group.
Oh, it is. Okay, sweet.
They haven't finally named it. I mean,
I was worried for a minute.
there's a guy on the talk. There's Tom Olsen, chair of the working group Kronos, at the talk.
Oh yeah. I see now. That's cool. I wasn't sure if it was just some, a couple of prominent game developers got up and went, "Hey, we're gonna make our own stuff." All I could think was, what?
I don't know if this potentially hints at something, but in the past, AMD have suggested donating most or all of Mantle of their API for OpenGL Next. If that has happened here, they might already have a complete solution.
Well, there's no one lined up for that panel who's from AMD. You'd think that if that was the case.
Or Nvidia, or Intel. There's only engine devs pretty much.
Yeah. I find that is really interesting.
I find that to be the most exciting part because it means that some of these things that if they wanted to suddenly makes it very easy for them to make the title for whatever platform.
Well, not just that.
And that means going forward, these concerns about day one releases might be, just a thing of the past.
Yeah. Well, also in addition, not all of these developers are known for having OpenGL renderers. So if these guys are, invested enough in whatever open thing is likely to succeed, OpenGL, then that's great news for every platform,
And if this is actually going to be Mantle renamed and slightly changed, AMD might become competitive on Linux again, because they actually know how to write drivers for that API. Better than anyone else yet so far. But this is just speculation.
Yeah, definitely gonna be interesting to see what comes of that. So I've seen some people laughing about the .NET Core runtime, which now builds on Linux, apparently.
Yes, it does, because it got open sourced, and there was like a tweet going around where it was building on Linux but failing on Windows.
Yeah, their build checks were that's what I caught, was that.
Yeah. I haven't checked it too much. Is this going into mono or something, or replacing it? I have no idea really.
I have no idea at all. I don't know if .NET's really all that relevant.
I would say it is in some way relevant for games, actually, because it seems to be the place where C# is most prevalent these days. Unity is using C#,
Oh
and
yeah, Unity's still using that, hey?
Unreal Engine is also implementing C#.
Oh, it is?
I mean, I think they do. I have seen some news about that.
Way to go, Epic.
I mean, it's a popular language and it's cross-platform through Mono enough.
Sure, JavaScript's a popular language as well.
I know you are hipster about these things. But if it is what game engine devs know, there is no reason not to use it if you can make it good and fast. I mean, I wouldn't say any complete language in which people can write applications is inherently bad. It's the implementation which is the problem, which might be proprietary and bound to a platform. So this is good, in my opinion.
It's going to be interesting to see what the impact of this on Mono is. Whether Mono is going to continue to, I guess, stay relevant or be developed. Yeah. Because I guess if this is getting the kind of development attention that it seems to be getting, then, it's going to be, it's going to be, if we've already got solid Linux support, then it's has the potential to eclipse Mono. Oh, someone in chat has just shared some stuff about Mono's relationship with the open sourcing of .NET, which we'll probably include in the show notes. Thank you very much for that, Dagov.
So, moving on to general gaming news. GOG has added some more Linux versions, Crimsonland and Wasteland 1. Though I'm a bit surprised Wasteland 1 took him so long, because we had the dot of that on Steam for quite some time now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how long it takes for things to appear on GOG.
So I recently bought Dark Forces on them. Their lack of commitment to even put stuff on there which already exists for Linux in other stores is what miffs me a bit. That's why I don't check it that often.
Actually, the reason I don't check very often is because I find it really difficult to see new stuff, I guess.
Yeah, they have like no solution in place for listing stuff that is actually new to your platform. They only list generally new stuff.
Right.
So if something gets added months down the line, you might not see it unless you specifically search for it.
Yeah. Which is kind of disappointing, like, if there's something that you care about, there doesn't seem to be a nice way to get an alert. You can follow them on Twitter, but, the chances of being awake when they tweet or having time to scroll through their tweets is not accessible to me.
Well, is anybody
It's all good.
participating in the Galaxy Alpha?
That was an alpha?
There was a sign up for the Galaxy Alpha. Of course, I think it's going to be Windows only at first, but maybe once that actually comes out, it'll solve some of those issues.
I sure hope.
Like also find out when a game has been updated.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Well, you already have that. When you go to the GOG website, you get a little number next to your thing, which says whether a game has been updated.
And then you have to re-download the whole game. So if you're not exactly getting a DOS game, that is quite some weight on your hard drive and your connection.
Sure. But at least there's a way to kind of find out what's been updated, versus not having any way to find out what's new. But Steam is just as bad on that front. I mean, like, the list of new games on Steam is far from reliable.
But I think GOG even shows you that when like the Mac or Windows version of any game gets updated. So there's a lot of noise in that information for people who are not interested in one platform or another one. That might even be true for Windows users who generally don't care for Linux or Mac updates, and they see it and think they get new stuff, and they don't.
I don't know. I none of the games I own on GOG have ever had a update that hasn't affected all platforms.
Some of mine had. I think even Dark Forces had, if you don't have that on GOG for whatever reason.
I
The way you go on about that game.
I haven't gotten around to buy it yet. I've got the I've actually got two original CDs of Dark Forces.
Make it 3. Then they can pretend to be family.
Well, I do have 2 Dark Forces and a Jedi Knight, so maybe that did actually happen.
Ooh. So, enough rambling. More talking about...
Actually, I'm going to bring it up because it's annoying me. I don't normally like to get ranty at all, but I am massively, massively disappointed. Not just in, like, because the Humble have this Star Wars bundle going on at the moment, and it's come a little while after GOG have released a bunch of LucasArts and games, including a stack of Star Wars titles. So these games already have DRM-free releases, and they're not included with the Humble bundle, and that really grinds my gears. Not to mention that we don't have Linux support for any of the titles there that do have Linux support on GOG via DOSBox or whatever else. But the fact that that they're not willing to ship the DRM-free versions, like, it just seems hugely inappropriate.
No, it is actually appropriate because this isn't your father's Humble bundle, if you want to say that. They have changed, and it should be evident by now. I mean, it should just harden your heart some more after it has already been made stale and hard by their old behavior, which has been like that for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't think that that's gonna shield them from any criticism from me. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and really, like you say, it's a massive example of how far they've deviated from where they started and where they promised they'd stay.
Millions and millions of dollars tend to do that to you.
Well, not to me, but to some people, definitely.
Yes, because you
I tell you what.
always said like
Somebody
millions
give
of
me a
dollars.
couple $1 million and I'll show you.
Thank you. I was gonna say, we can do some empirical tests here. Just throw it my way and I'll
Yeah,
let you know
yeah.
if it changes me. I'll still do the cast, I promise.
Yep.
I'll do it every day for the right amount of money.
But for all platforms, I mean, it's not like this stuff doesn't exist. Why not shove it in there instead of just shipping a bunch of Steam keys?
Or not.
With other stuff, you could probably pass it off as being, DRM-free copies are unavailable, and it's difficult to get people to agree to, to get that happening. But in this case, they do exist, and yeah, if I was gonna swear, I'd swear about that.
Can we go on to zombies now?
And AAA zombies, right?
Yes, Dying Light has had a simultaneous release on Windows and Linux, and both versions started out quite broken, but the Linux version a little more so. The good news, however, are they are not ignoring us in light of the big issues that were also on Windows, and both patches that have come out so far have instantly and always included Linux-specific fixes, which is good behavior. We can forgive. Shoddy first efforts, but being ignored, I could not forgive, but I didn't have to forgive anything because they are actually getting behind those things. There were some really silly issues on Linux, like the game completely reniced all your user processes to 19 in the beginning, and it seems to have reniced your user session because everything you started after you started Dying Light also turned out to have nice level 19, so everything you were running was running at lowest priority, which kind of messed up your whole session. And the first patch, they said they fixed it. What did they do? They changed it to knock it down to 14 instead of just 19. But in the second patch, they actually fixed it. And also stuff like the typical error where people compile with compiler optimizations for their target CPU, and then it doesn't run on i5, older pre-i5 and pre-AMD FX processors. They also changed that. But performance is still quite measly, and I would not recommend buying the game just now, even if you are on a high-end system, because it seems their renderer is not culling anything, meaning it does not stop rendering anything you can't actually see to save performance. Expander did some testing, and that game does over 20,000 draw calls per frame. And that is madness, if you don't know what that means. Just know it's madness, it's too much. It will bog down every system. So, yeah. But it should be like 1 or 2 patches away from actually being playable on Linux. And when it's playable, like in the tutorial session, before you actually see the outside world, which then messes up your performance, it runs quite well to that point, and it plays well. It's a nice game. It's a mixture of Dead Island and Mirror's Edge, and I actually like it more than Mirror's Edge because here the parkour actually serves more than just being there for the sake of being parkour. You actually have some gameplay going on beyond that.
I also appreciate the fact that it doesn't really it doesn't make it stand out in any way. Like when you're playing Assassin's Creed, for example, it's kind of obvious where all the paths were. I was watching Linux Zen stream that for a little bit, and when I was watching that, I realized that the different paths you can take aren't highlighted for you, so you just kind of have to get used to the environment around you and use that to your advantage. It looks like it'd be a lot of fun once some of these bugs get worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you are just basically pre-running parkouring all over the place there. It's not like Mirror's Edge where there was only one part, and not like Assassin's Creed where it's extremely obvious that this is now a flag post you jump onto or something. It's just your way of movement, which is actually closer to how parkour is perceived by trackers, people who do parkour. And it's quite evident that the guy who pretty much popularized the sport in the Western world, invented it, so to say, has consulted on that game. Because it feels like it belongs.
Raven's Cry has been released. Anybody played that?
Not yet, because it's a bit pricey and it still sounds like it's buggy, and not many people have reported on it specifically for Linux yet, except Gaming on Linux, and it says it's still a bit buggy. So yeah, especially since this is a game from a publisher and developer who are known to not deliver the greatest quality. It's the publisher's top where the developer is Reality Pump, and they have made two worlds, and two worlds 2, which when they were released were actually broken and not that great games anyway. So I'm still waiting on some YouTubers I watch and other reviewers to give me a good opinion I can base my buying decision on. But it seems to have slipped under the radar for many of those, which isn't surprising because there wasn't any kind of fanfare going on when this was released anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think I've even heard about it.
It was actually announced like 5 years ago or something, or 4, and it changed developers in between and got delayed and delayed again. So yeah, it's either way, it's probably not going to be the greatest game in the world, but if it's just a decent enough game, I might buy it. But one decent game we know is decent actually came out, didn't it, Cheese?
Yeah, Grim Fandango has finally been released. I had the pleasure of testing that before release. It's kind of really interesting to see the way that things kind of polished up in the last couple of days. And just goes to show that that sort of last minute crunch, fix all the things, integrate all the things is still present in the industry. Happens everywhere. There are still a couple of remaining bugs that people might find, but on the whole, it's been pretty solid for me. I think your experience has been similar, Bean.
Absolutely. So far, it's been okay. I hadn't run any real major issues.
I think if you're not running Pulse, you're likely to have some audio problems, but I'm not sure what the root of that is. But yeah, like it's Grim Fandango. If you like the original game, it's pretty much the original game. But with the 3D models are upresed, the backgrounds are scaled. The original source assets for those weren't recoverable, which is kind of sad. So they couldn't re-render the backgrounds for the cutscenes. But you know, it's all about preserving the game in its original form rather than and making that available rather than you're trying to remake it in any way. For people who are already fans, the real meat of it is probably going to be the commentary, maybe achievements if you're into achievements, and and there's a neat concept art browser in the main menu, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so far the commentary has been like it's taken twice as long to play through it, if not 3 times as long, because you have to hear the commentary run over the dialogue. So I'll go back and listen to the commentary again, and it's really fascinating some of the things they talk about. Like the elevators, for example. They talk about how, since they were it was all actually on a 2D plane, talking about how people would run back and forth over the elevator, causing it to kind of bug out. It's just interesting to hear about little quirks and things that came up during the creation of the game.
I think they've also rounded off the corners of some of the collision boxes for like running around and stuff, which is kind of neat, and makes it you less likely to bounce off stuff as well. I wrote a short article on the remastered edition and on kind of Grim Fandango in general, if anybody's interested in reading that. But how far through it have you managed to get, Bean?
Just about I'm a couple scenes into year 2.
Yeah, okay. I think for a lot of people, Rubicava is their, their favorite part of the game.
Yeah, I could stay there forever.
But it's cool. So, Fahrenheit is released, another remastering project. It's out now for Linux as well.
Yeah, it's Aspire's Secret Love Child, which they said out of thousands or so guesses, nobody managed to guess, and it's not surprising why, because while it's a well-known game, actually, it's a bit of an obscure choice, and nobody saw that one coming. But it's interesting in many respects. It's not even that great game. The writing is cringeworthy at best, because David Cage fancies himself many things.
Yeah.
Which he isn't. He isn't a good game designer. He isn't a good writer. He isn't a good director, which he thinks he is. But
We're attacking all the things on SteamLUG Cast.
everyone and everything. We are equal opportunity bashers. So, but it's really quirky and interesting in many ways. It's one of the first really QTE heavy games with timed dialogue choices. You will see a lot of really modern. No, I forgot the developer. Jeez, which developer did I tell you was making their games like this? Telltale. It was Telltale, of course.
Oh, them, yeah.
Yeah, it's Telltale looks a lot like that game did years ago in the PlayStation 2 days.
Telltale's newer stuff, of course.
Yes, the one where you have timed dialogue choices and really almost every in-game action is QTE based. A lot of that DNA is in there. And if you just want a story that goes bonkers for no good reason, this one is it. And also if you like playing Simon Says on a timer, with 2 Simons, like the button game.
Yeah, that's about all I remember from the original Xbox version. It was a lot of QTE and a lot of repeat after me.
So did that term exist at the time that game came out? Like, what did they call that
Quick time
gameplay?
events.
I think it had another name, but I don't even know.
So, Apotheon for Linux is super, super close. I think the port might be finished now. I don't want to go on record as saying that as fact, but I've been playing the public beta branch, which is the FNA-beta branch. By the time that the archive goes out, it might even be released. I'm not sure. But it's kind of neat. Have either of you guys had a chance to play it?
No, not yet. I will buy it maybe when it's out, not before.
I just got a copy last night. I have not yet had a chance to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of does have a similar feel to Capsized, I guess, but I feel like the platforming feels a little bit more refined. I think the art style is probably for me at the moment, the number one thing. That's really cool. It's got this kind of I don't know, it feels like it's styled as though it's painted on a Grecian urn, I guess. We all love greasy urns, right?
I love greasy everything.
And yeah, it's just got this really compelling visual style to it. I love it.
So there is a new beta out for Witcher 2 on Linux. And it's actually quite a big improvement also for me. It has taken quite some CPU load off, and I'm still burnt by CPU, but not that much anymore, and have gotten considerably better FPS. It's still not a super great performer, but it has improved a bit, and if in the past you had problems getting the game to play at any good FPS at all, it's worth checking that again. It's interesting to note that the developers actually went in one bug report against the kernel devs in a silly statement saying they were gunning for them in some way. They were especially targeting them with just a bug that was in the kernel. And eventually Torvalds himself popped into there and was talking about that bug, was confirming it, and I think it has been discovered and is now being fixed, if it's not already fixed for newer kernel versions.
Well, I think that's because Torvalds has some kind of like an alert set up for anytime somebody says don't break user space. And so as soon as somebody invoked that, he had to jump in there and check out what it was. But it turns out that it was actually a case of the kernel developers had broken user space. And if you continue through the list, the original developer who did it comes back out and explains exactly why he did it, and points out that the developers had actually coded the first part of an exploit. So it was good that they exposed that, and then they got it fixed.
So intentionally or accidentally?
It sounds like it was accidental.
Okay.
Which developers coded the exploit? The virtual programming developers or the kernel devs accidentally?
The virtual programming devs.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I mean, catching this at the halfway point is better than catching it when there's already an exploit out there which people can use to attack systems. So I guess really is a win.
I don't know. If something isn't an exploit or isn't exploitable, can you really call it an exploit?
It turns out though that this was exploitable. It was the first part, like the code indication they were using was actually opening the hole for the exploit. So this just would have been first step. So it was just good to close a kernel hole to begin with.
Okay. The thing I think is interesting about this particular situation is that it highlights that, I mean, so many people have been ragging on virtual programming for the issues that The Witcher 2 had, and some of them probably are their fault, but it just goes to show that there are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of stuff that can be the weak link in the chain between a game working well and a game not working well, and that it's probably better to try and investigate stuff and discover what exactly is going on than it is to just kind of get grumpy at whoever feels like they're the best person to take blame.
Let me put this in a very educating and colorful way. If you deliver a giant pile of crap to people, they don't care if you tell them that maybe 1 or 2 turds aren't by your making.
I mean, obviously,
If they delivered a reasonably good product to begin with, and then said, "Hey, these are not our bugs; these are other people's bugs," I guess they would have been more inclined to believe it.
yeah. I mean, like, obviously, this stuff should have been picked up in their QA, and it's surprising that it wasn't.
And they actually have already implemented like a workaround for that issue
Oh, they had?
because, well, they have already did that. So there was something on their part they could do, even though it's a kernel bug. They have the ability to avoid it.
Yeah, okay. But still, it does kind of, to me, it highlights that that there are more things involved than just the game developer
Sure.
when a game may or may not be running bad.
Agreed. And if you read the entire comment thread, you get to the end of it. Even Torvald says, "Well, maybe we should take a look at more game usage as well," because it was basically one exposed the other, and then at the end of it, there's a good collaboration where both parties fix their code to work around the whole thing.
What's interesting, isn't it? I mean, like game development traditionally has always been about pushing the envelope, pushing the edge of what can be done, and on consoles where there are very fixed environments, people doing all sorts of crazy dodgy stuff to squeeze out a bit more performance or squeeze out a bit more memory or do things that you would generally consider to be bad practices just to make their game do something that they wanted to do. So like it feels like games are a space that are a good use case for kernel developers to be thinking about and keeping track of, because they are going to be messing around and doing things that other spaces aren't necessarily going to be doing. So Black Forest Games are doing stuff.
Tell me about it, because I have not really been following this.
The people who make Gianna Sisters, that's a franchise, right? The one that is meant to be coming to Linux as a sequel, I think. But that was in a Humble Bundle ages back, and its Linux port has taken a long time. Apparently, they are moving their Linux ports back in-house, and are talking about maybe having same-day Linux release for their next game as well. So that's kind of really positive to hear that that's happening.
I actually have that game and forgotten I had it, because that's how long it has taken so far.
Yeah.
Game purchased on 18th of February 2014. So that's when it has been in the bundle, I think.
Yeah.
And it's over a year almost, and we don't have it yet.
Right, and the purchase has a tag in there or something, coming later this year. And now we've rolled into 2015, but at least they've addressed the issue, and they point out that they are trying to make some progress on it. They even posted up some screenshots.
So yeah, Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams is a sequel to a 1987 game.
That was a straight-up rip-off of Super Mario Brothers.
So in that thread where they're talking about GS2, but I could be wrong. Oh no, they say whenever it comes out. So yeah, they're definitely definitely talking about something they're making. There you go. But yeah, that's awesome to see people bringing ports in-house. I mean, that's the best outcome. You know, that means that the original developers are going to be the ones fixing their own things. You know, dealing with their own, you know, idiosyncrasies are brought up by the whatever they've chosen to do. You know, it's not like a third party has to go through and guess at why they made certain decisions or why they did things a certain way. It means that they're going to be more likely to maintain it, you know, than a third party who gets, you know, presumably is working under contract and then just kind of has to disappear unless they're paid and brought back to do more stuff that didn't make it in during the original development pass and whatever initial support thing was, you know, part of that. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
There is a really interesting mod for Amnesia the Dark Descent out on Steam. It's called Penumbra Necrolog. And if you know the developers behind Amnesia, Frictional Games, Penumbra was the name of the first trilogy of games they made, also horror games. So this is really interesting. It's a fan-made mod. It's not official, but I actually found the Penumbra games to be scarier than Amnesia. The sad part here is I can't get it to download anyway at all from Steam. And a lot of people seem to have the same problem, so it's out there, it exists, but they seem to be having an issue with Steam, and that needs addressing before you can actually download it from there. But you can get a working version on SteamDB, not SteamDB, ModDB. Somebody just said in chat it's working. Let me check that real quick. Or not, because I'm not anywhere near that game page. Yes, it's actually downloading now. Yes, I can confirm it. I clicked it. It is downloading now. So I might see about that game during the weekend.
Neat.
Ledworks Game Player is on Greenlight right now. It's a free game player where you can play free Ledworks games that are put on the Ledworks workshop, which you actually had to previously have the engine for to play them.
Oh, neat.
So you can try out some games if that actually makes it through Greenlight. So go there, vote for it. You really can't lose unless you consider having the opportunity to play some stuff for free losing.
Well, I mean, it's bigger than just being able to play stuff for free. I mean, having that available allows content creators to, you know, distribute their stuff a bit easier.
Yeah, and get some testing out the door real easy. I mean, you can just
Exactly.
You have a crowdfunding campaign. You want to try my game? Here's a demo version on Steam. You just download this free app and you pick my game out of it, and then you can play it. Though this only works with Lua games that will run sandbox, because how should it easily run with C++ games that have to be compiled individually? It just doesn't work feasibly. But yeah, I think it's a neat idea. It's free. Literally no. It supports Linux. There's literally no reason not to click yes on that. At worst, you won't be using it and you haven't wasted a dime of money.
Yeah. No, I gotta say, I'm glad to see this. It's cool. Interesting wording in the announcement that they've got on there, where they say that they're ahead of where the number 5 item was where they launched on Greenlight, rather than saying what their current position is.
I think Josh, the guy who makes Ledworks, has some background in marketing before he went to coding. Sometimes his language is a bit. It reflects that quite obviously if you pay attention. So, does this conclude our episode or doesn't it?
I guess it does. I was just looking to see if I could find anything else that I've been. Oh, something we did
Yes.
forget to mention.
Our YouTube channel is now completely up to date with all recent episodes, and you can subscribe to it because we, I think, have the total intention of keeping it as updated as the website. So if you like to consume your multimedia content through YouTube, which a lot of people do, go there, make us more popular.
So, on that note, thank you very much for joining us, guys. As always, it has been a pleasure.
If you have some feedback for us, You know where to find us in IRC. We can be reached on the Steam forums, and there's always cast at steamlug.org. Don't be afraid to send an email at it,
Yeah, send us emails.
so we know what you think and what you want to see.
We love emails. We appreciate emails. Send us all the emails. You can also hit us up on Twitter, at SteamLUG, if that's exciting. If you do the Twitters, you can do that. We have the Google Pluses as well, but not quite as active.
It's only a thing you kind of do. So, thank you all for coming, and see you on the next episode with Ryan Gordon.
That'll be fun.
That's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. You guys want me to do the intro-ish thing, or do you want to do it?
You do it.
Yes.
Do it. So, Cheese, are you non-canonical then?
I hate Ubuntu.
Yes, he is using Fedora. I still like him though.
You play the new theme song here.
You can play it in your head, where the leprechauns
do.
live.
Dear.